Hey y'all, welcome back to MGM. I'm Jimmy. Today's video is going to be a bit informal. I very rarely produce more than one video a week, but since Trench Crusade has been something that has been really popular with me lately and the community in general, I wanted to make a quick video on some of the core mechanics of the game so you understand. In our last video, we tried to have some pop-ups that would appear on the battle report so you could see a lot of the modifiers that we were doing. And I just wanted to discuss those. I want to discuss your plus and minus dice, and I also want to discuss blood markers, all of which are very core to the mechanics of this game. It's not like a lot of war games that you've played. It's certainly not like this. Alright, this guy is shooting this guy. He gets 12 attacks, and he gets to re-roll all of these ones, hitting on twos. He gets to re-roll ones because of the infinite. Oh, but he gets, okay, so we had one miss. All right. Now we'll roll to wound, needing twos. We'll get to re-roll ones. Okay, dadgum. This person now has to take some saves. Oh, but he gets to re-roll ones because this person's here. Okay, he takes one wound out of all that, and he's got 20 wounds. The key thing to know in Trench Crusade is that you can take any actions that is available to your model at that time. So there are some actions that you can't combine. For example, you can't do a standard move and then charge. When you elect to charge, you roll a d6 and you already move your base move. So that is kind of calculated into that. You can dash, however, which is a risky action, and if you fail a risky action, then your activation ends. So you could take a risky action to dash, and then you charge. On the other side, if you watched our last battle report, you can actually fight in combat, and then turn around and charge. But you would not be eligible to fight again because you can't do the same action more than once. Now, the game revolves around the action success chart, and you are normally rolling 2d6, and you are trying to get a 7 or better to have a successful action. If the action is risky, like I said, and you fail that test, then your activation ends. If you are successful, then you proceed as normal. If you happen to roll a 12 or more, and the reason I say more is because sometimes you could get more than 12 if you have if you're adding dice together in the pool, if a special rule says that. But if you get a 12, then it would be a critical success. And a critical success, normally, if you were shooting or fighting in combat, a critical success would mean that you add plus dice to your injury roll. Now let's talk about plus and minus dice. You normally would roll 2d6 on the action success chart, and that can be modified depending on what you're doing. Let's say, for example, that you are shooting. If you are shooting from an elevated position at least 2 inches above your target, then you get plus dice. If the target is in cover, and to be in cover I found that you have to be touching the terrain, then it's minus dice. Those two can cancel each other out. You saw in our battle report, a guy shooting from elevation, someone is in cover, you get plus dice and a minus dice, so it's just a 2d6 test as they cancel each other out. If you have more modifiers, if you're plus dice, for example, if you're just shooting from an elevated position and the target is in the open, then you are rolling 3d6 and you're taking the 2 highest because you're at plus dice. If the target is just in cover, then you're at minus dice. So you would still roll 3d6, only you're taking the 2 lowest. What you're essentially doing is you're rolling to hit and rolling to wound in one roll. And I really do like that. If you think about it that way, then it makes a lot of sense. You're not rolling to get a 3 and then rolling again to get a 4. You're just rolling both dice together to get a 7. Just know that whenever you are plus dice or minus dice, you are adding a d6 to the pool. And if you're plus and minus, they can cancel each other out until you have 1 or none remaining. And if you're still at plus dice, then you're going to take the 2 highest, and if you're minus diced, you will take the 2 lowest. Now your plus and minus dice can come from a lot of different places. Let's take the Sniper Priest, for example. He has, typically you're rolling 2 dice on the action success chart. Well, his ranged skill in general automatically gives him plus 2 dice, so that takes you up to 4. If you're shooting from an elevated position, that would be an extra plus dice, so now you're at 5. If he has a sniper rifle, because weapons can have different attributes, then he gets a plus dice from his sniper rifle, and then he has a risky action called aim, which could give him 2 plus dice as well. So when he fires, if he successfully passes that risky action to aim and he fires, he has a lot of plus dice that he's going to be trying to hit you with. And what he's doing is it makes you more successful in fishing for criticals. And criticals are very important because, again, they allow you to add plus dice to your injury roll. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it is really easy and very intuitive. You do the exact same thing when rolling to injure. You typically start with 2 dice, and you're looking to get a 9 or higher to take them out of action. A 7 or 8 is a down result, and a 6 is just a minor hit. So there are some modifications to this as well. You get plus dice. Let's say you rolled a critical to hit. Well, then you're going to get plus dice on the injury roll, and that makes it more likely that you roll a 9 or higher because you're going to be taking the 2 highest dice. It makes it more likely that you're going to take that opponent out or put them down. The key concept on both of these success charts is to remember that you add dice to the pool, and whether you're plus or minus, they can cancel each other out. And then if you're plus, you take the 2 highest. If you're minus, you take the 2 lowest. Now, we talk about the injury chart and blood markers and things like that. A minor hit will give you a blood marker. If you're taken down, you will get a blood marker. And if you are already down, and you go down again, then you get an extra blood marker for a total of 2. Your opponent can use these blood markers. If you have blood markers on your model and you're shooting at someone else, your opponent can give you minus dice with the blood markers. They can use more than one. For example, if you had 2 blood markers on you, then they can give you minus 2 dice. So that would essentially cancel out elevation if you had it, for example, and give you minus dice overall. In addition, if you were hitting someone that had blood markers on them, you can use those blood markers to get plus dice on your injury roll. So if you're firing at a heretic trooper, for example, and he has 2 blood markers on him, you're going to roll 2d6 standard, but you can expend those 2 blood markers and get 2 plus dice. So you would now be rolling 4d6, and you would take the 2 highest, making it much more likely that he goes out of action. Now, one of the things that I saw in our game, I really started to see this about midway through, is when you have some of these models like the heavy mechanized infantry that have the reinforced armor. So when you roll an injury roll, they actually minus 2 from that result. So if you rolled a 9, it would actually be a 7 and be treated as a down result instead of out of action. That's how armor works. I really started to find out that stacking blood markers on these guys is crucial. You don't want to just get 1 blood marker on there and try to get, plus dice, roll 3d6 for your injury roll, take the 2 highest. You really want to stack up those blood markers. There is a mechanic called Bloodbath that costs 6 blood markers if your opponent is just kind of standing normal. But if your opponent is down, it only costs 3 blood markers to do what's called Bloodbath. And Bloodbath means that you roll 3d6 and add all of the numbers together. So when the injury success chart says 12 plus, that's what it's referring to, because you could potentially roll an 18, and I don't think there's any kind of armor in the game that's going to save you from that. So Bloodbath is certainly something to consider. You get 3 blood markers on someone. If they are down, you can expend those blood markers and then add all of the dice together, 3d6, to try to take them out of action. That is how you deal with a lot of these guys that have a ton of armor. The Warwolf Assault Beast with his minus 3 armor is a perfect example of when to do this as well. You don't want to expend the blood markers in 1s and 2s. You want to try to stack them up and then let loose with Bloodbath. So key points to remember is that you're always adding, when you see plus dice, minus dice, you're going to be adding d6s to your pool. They will cancel each other out, and to your left, either which is 2d6, you're balanced, or your plus dice, so you take the 2 highest, or your minus dice, and you take the 2 lowest. And for blood markers, just know that you can use them on your opponents. If your target has a blood marker, you can make it more likely to injure them. And if your opponent has a blood marker when they go to shoot you, you can make it more difficult for them to hit you. I hope this helps you out as you journey through Trench Crusade. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.